he who has lost his life for my sake will find it. 1997 was actually a very important year for me in so many ways. That's the year I met the most important woman in my life. It is also a year in which two of my favorite women in the world passed away in a week. And you probably know who I'm talking about. I think I have a picture of them. Yes. You know, Lady Diana and Mother Teresa. I admired both of them. And Indira Gandhi, who passed away much before that. These are the three women I really appreciated a lot. Not only about their leadership, and if you lived in the 80s and 90s, these two people, Mother Teresa and Lady Diana, were the face of charity or giving, helping other people. So they had such an impression in the society, not just in a tiny part of the world, all over the world. So I always admired them. I used to say a prayer for them sometime. And they both died in the same week. Diana died on August 31 of 1997. And Mother Teresa died on September 5, a week apart. And I still remember I was so disappointed. I was so sad that week. Even though I obviously have never met her. You know, Mother Teresa, you don't need any introduction. You know, she is the ultimate giver you can probably imagine in our contemporary culture. But Lady Diana, not a lot of people know that she has been a voice for the poor and the oppressed and the marginal. And she traveled all around the world, even up to India and Pakistan and Indonesia, Angola. These are some of her favorite countries where she worked with and for leprosy, people who are suffering by leprosy, HIV, AIDS. This was a big thing in the 80s and 90s. And she, obviously, for homeless people and people who, the children and all that. So Lady Diana gave a lot to the society. And I'm going to say that if you put a dollar value to the amount both of these women has given, I won't be surprised if Diana gave more than Mother Teresa, if you put a dollar value, because she was rich and she hung out with rich people. She had that connection to give. And even after Lady Diana's death, there was a foundation in her name up to 2012, when that foundation declared, when they released their financials, by 2012, after Diana's death, they have already given out $145 million in her name through that foundation. So she kept on giving even after their death. So they were kind of an example for me, and somebody I always look up to, these two women, right? But when I look at them, I wanted you to see that picture. One thing really stands out, is that their smile. I like people who smile, and when I look at Mother Teresa, right, there was something about her smile which is contagious, which is like a little kid. Nobody has to put a camera in front of Mother Teresa and say, "Smile, please," or "cheese." That's her demeanor. Like, she just smiles and she just laughs. There's this inner joy in her all the time when you see her, right? Whereas Lady Diana was a celebrity. There was always cameras on her. As you probably know, that's how she died. She always lived in front of camera. And there was always flashes clicking all the time. And she always smiled. But she never really smiled. And you can always see through that fake smile of hers. There was a broken heart. And if you don't know Diana's story, and in Netflix, I was obsessively watching some of her documentaries, and, the tragic story behind this princess, which we all thought had this perfect life. marrying a prince and living in a palace. We all thought she had this perfect life, but she was probably the most tragic characters in this contemporary culture. And I wouldn't wish her fate even on my enemies, because she had such a tragic, painful life. Yet she had to smile, because she was supposed to smile. So I always compared their smile as these two giving people and compare their destiny in some way. And Diana, and I still remember when I went to 1999, I got an opportunity to go to Paris on a business trip. So, I still remember, it was a company was paying, it's a very rich company. They booked me in a 5-star hotel, and they gave me a personal tour. Like, the guy will come in the morning. That's how you should go to Paris, right? Like, the car and a personal tour guide, just me and him, because the company was paying. And he would take me to wherever I want to go. So I still remember the first day he came and knocked at the door, and he said, "Oh, sir, where do you want to go today? So where do we want to start our tour today?" And I said, "I want to go where Lady Diana died." There is this, you probably know how she died, right? She was being chased by the paparazzi, and the car was going, so there was a car crash just right below an overpass, or like a bridge. And I remember watching this in the news, and I remember kind of crying. I just wept seeing that scene, and I just wanted to say, I wanted to go there. I want to go there first. And he looked, what? Like, it took a while for him to process, because normally when you go to Paris for the first time, you start tour from Eiffel Tower, or, Louvre Museum, or, where Mona Lisa, and Paris. There are so many amazing, romantic, beautiful places to see. So I think I have a picture of that, yeah. Yeah, so this is where my tour to Paris started. I went there, I just stood there, and Pierre, that's his name, he looked at me, what is wrong with this Indian guy, right? Like, nowhere, in the middle of nowhere, nobody is there. But I just remember standing there, contemplating the irony of life. And, what we think, because now it is even more becoming real. We live in Los Angeles, the city of glitter and glamour, right? Tinsel town, that's what people call it. And do you know that many of the celebrities, we think that they have the perfect life. They are a classic example of Lady Diana. And they are smiling because they have to smile. They are contractually obliged to smile. But inside, I have had the opportunity to meet some of these people, and inside they have a broken heart, broken family, broken life, and everything. And it is the pain, through that pain and tears is that the smile kind of filtered through, right? And now, let's go back to, I just wanted to give you the context in which why I said I was obsessed with Diana. It's not because of Diana's beauty, or Diana to me is a symbol of the world today. And even our city today, that looks pretty, looks like everything it has. So let's go back to that picture. If you can keep that picture, this is the basis in which we are going to talk. So how could these two givers, they both gave, they are both givers, example of giving and charity, and one could smile so incessantly, such a pure smile, and whereas the other person couldn't, right? Like, she had that pain, the subtle sorrow in her face. And the reason I realized that, the more I thought about it as I was reading the scripture today, Jesus said, he who has found this life will lose it. And then he said, he or she, in this case she, who has lost her life for my sake will find it. Now, Lady Diana was a giver, okay? She gave everything in her power she could give, but she still didn't lose anything. She had everything when she died. She was a princess. She had her celebrity status. She had her yachts, and she had her cars, and she had her boyfriends, and she had her estates, and she had palaces and luxury cars, and she had everything she wanted in her possession. Yet she probably gave more than Mother Teresa. She definitely gave more than even ICA could even imagine for us to give. Yet, she did not lose anything. She gave, but she did not lose. You know what Mother Teresa's possession was when she died? An extra pair of clothes and an umbrella. That's all the Sisters of Charities are allowed to possess. An extra pair of clothes and umbrella. An umbrella because Calcutta, rainy season, when she has to go out, she has to have an umbrella. An extra pair of clothes because, when you're washing and you had hand wash, including her, she hand washed her clothes. And when she washes her clothes, obviously she has to wear another cloth. So Mother Teresa was not just a giver. She was not just giving, but she was losing. In the process of giving, Mother Teresa lost everything she had, including her life. Every dream a little girl could have, marrying a prince and, living that's a little girl's dream, right? A prince coming in a horseback and riding off to sunset. All that dream came true for Diana, but Mother Teresa lost her life, lost everything she had. Because she lost that, she found the ultimate joy of what giving really is. Now, the point I want to make today, like I said last week, giving is loving. And I want you to say today that giving is losing. Giving is losing. Okay? Diana was giving, but Mother Teresa was losing. Okay? Now, there is this very famous story. I'm not going to preach on it because we have heard that story in Luke chapter 18. This rich young ruler comes to Jesus. A ruler questioned him, saying, Luke chapter 18, verses 18. A ruler questioned him, saying, "Good teacher, what shall I do to inherit eternal life?" And Jesus said to him, "Why do you call me good? No one is good except God alone. You know the commandments: do not commit adultery, do not murder, do not steal, do not bear false witness, honor your father and mother." And he said, "All these things I have kept from my youth." When Jesus heard this, he said to him, "One thing you still lack." Now, when he heard that, he thought he's going to get a clean certificate. But there was a pause from Jesus. He said, there is one more thing you have to do, just one more thing. And now I'm going to paraphrase the rest of the story. He said, "What is that?" Well, it has to do with giving. It's to do with money, right? Preachers, they always talk about money. Okay, so it has to do with giving. Sure. How much, right? How much you want? No. You need to take your check leaf, not just what is in your wallet. You have to take check leaf. Oh, sure. How much should I write, right? So Jesus is saying that, okay, write everything. I'll write everything in my check. But you have a checking account and you have a saving account too, right? Yeah, you need that too. And then you have some shares, right? Yeah. You need all that? Yeah, you need shares and the mutual fund and all that investment. Really? Okay. And what about 401k? That's too. Really? 401k? And okay, by the way, when you go into encash that 401k, take your mortgage paper too, because you're going to sell your house too. Now, that's not easy when you put it into context. And Jesus is saying to this young man, giving is not good enough. Giving is not good enough. I'm not here to ask you to give. I am here to ask you to lose. I'm here to ask you to lose. See, this is the difference between, Christian giving and the secular giving, I would say. That's an example of Mother Teresa, and one of the reasons I put Mother Teresa and Lady Diana on the side. See, some of these people in the secular world give more than we do. They are very generous. They are very charitable. A lot of people. For example, 2015, December 1st, Mark Zuckerberg, you know him, right? Facebook CEO, announced that he is going to give 99% of all his possession to charity. No kidding. We are struggling with 10%. He's saying, he's not a Christian, obviously. He says 99% of his wealth he is going to give to charity. I said, wow, that is amazing. What a classic example of giving. Now, when he said that, his wealth, net worth was around $45 billion, right? Now his net worth is around $60 billion. So even if he gives 99% of his wealth to charity, he still has around $600 million in his pocket. He only gave his wealth. He didn't say anything about his wife's wealth and all that. But $600 million, that is something you cannot even get in your dream, some of us, right? So sometimes we have to understand there's a difference between when we say giving, we always automatically think of the process of that act of giving itself. That's why Jesus specifically said, it is not the one who gave his life will find it, the one who lost his life will find it. Even if he gives 99%, he is still not losing anything. He is not losing anything. I'm not depreciating. I'm not condemning the secular charity. But you also have to remember, it's funny, since we are talking about millionaires and billionaires here, sometimes charity is done because there is no other way to spend money. For example, the wealthiest person right now, you probably know, Amazon's chief, right? Jeff Bezos, right? He's the wealthiest person. And when I read his net worth last week before last, it was $143 billion. So now I read Time magazine yesterday, it is $150 billion. So in a week, he made around $7 billion. So I was kind of, for fun, just come with me for fun's sake, Just imagine Jeff Bezos decide today, you know what, I'm done with it. I want to retire. I have enough money for retirement. So he's 54 years old, by the way. He's only 54 years old. And so Jeff Bezos is going to retire with his, let's say, $140 billion. Let's leave the other $10 billion. $140 billion. If he retires, and imagine, let's say he lived up to 80 years old, 70 to 80, according to the biblical figure. So if he puts this money in the bank, the interest alone is going to be humongous. So I'm going to assume that he doesn't trust the bank. He's going to dig a big bunker, put all his money in cash and taking it like a salary from there, because I'm going to avoid the interest. Then it becomes too much even for us to fit into our imagination. To make it simple, if he's going to live on his $140 billion for the rest of his life, you know what his yearly salary will be? It will be approximately $5.5 billion. That will be his yearly salary for his rest of his life. Yearly salary. Does that, you know what that means? It means per day, he will be getting around $15 million per day without calculating any interest. Can you imagine what a difficult thing it will be to spend $15 million every day? It's not humanly possible to spend that kind of money unless you have a kid who likes to burn this and see how colorful the smoke is coming. Even then it will be difficult to burn this 15 million because somehow I finished 15 million, then comes next day another 15 million. Saturday, Sunday, every day. It is humanly not possible for people to have this kind of possession. At some point, money will lose its value. at some point. And that is, I'm not saying that that's one of the reasons they are giving, but that is possibly the reason. So you have to understand, when Jesus says giving, it is not just about the money, the value of money. That's not, he's talking about that at all, right? And, there is this famous writer, another reason some of the people give, very famous writer. It's actually Sneha's favorite writer, if I'm right. Anne Lamott, right? Isn't that your favorite writer? Yeah. So she said something like that. I thought it was very interesting. She said, this is important for Christians to understand too. This is, now I'm coming to the more familiar territory. This is what she said. Is she a Christian? She is, eh? Okay, good. Help is the sunny side of control. That's what she said. I'll give you some time to think about it. Help is the sunny side of control. Which really means that when you're helping somebody, you somehow get a satisfaction of controlling their destiny a little bit. It's a good thing. It's a good thing, right? Okay, let me illustrate it another way. Let's bring, since we are talking about all these billionaires, let's bring another guy, Microsoft, Bill Gates, right? Bill Gates is the second richest man today, right? He only has 94 billion compared to Jeff Bezos. He's poor, right? So he only has $94 billion. And you probably know Bill Gates resigned from his position, and he has dedicated all his money and all his wealth, everything into charity. What an amazing example, right? Like, he's an example we should all learn from. But you have to remember, though, if you go to Bill Gates with a proposal for your ICA ministry center, can he give us, say, $200,000? That will be good enough for us. They are not going to give it to you. By the way, Bill Gates has given his money to Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And Mark Zuckerberg has given his money to Chan and Zuckerberg Foundation. They did not just throw their money away. They did not just call the United Way or Red Cross or World Vision and say, take this money and go away and do your thing. No. They're smart people. They know how hard it was to make money. So they're not just going to give it to you just like that, but they control it. They still have not really given it away. They rather use it for the causes which they think is important in the world. In that sense, they are influencing the moral decisions in the world, economic decisions in the world, in a good way. I'm not saying that I'm not finding fault with this, but you have to remember that is not the kind of giving the Bible is talking about. That's why I said the act of giving is determined by the act of losing. Losing. They have not lost anything. Actually, as a matter of fact, in the process of giving, all these billionaires have gained a lot of things. If you are interested, you can watch a documentary called Philanthropy Inc. And there is I think it is Netflix. And how some of these rich people and rich companies are using the act of philanthropy to manipulate perceptions in the society and to try to get what they want. And I'm not saying that Bill Gates is doing that, or because I want to be clear, just in case if I get to meet him someday, I don't want somebody to bring him, the ICA sermon I did years ago and said, this guy did all. So I want to be very clear, Bill Gates, in case we meet. I'm not saying that. So the point I'm trying to make is they are not just giving, they are also using it to control the money and control the outcome of that money. In that case, if Jesus will look at them and say, you have not given anything, you are still holding on to it, right? And that's why Bill Gates edited Time magazine. Can you imagine? Time magazine was edited by Bill Gates, I think, a couple months ago, an issue. Now, it doesn't matter how billionaire, what a billionaire you are, unless and until you create that persona of a humanitarian, they won't allow you to edit Time magazine. Because that is something which influences people's mind. And Bill Gates' wife, Melinda Gates, was invited, and she spoke at Willow Creek conference, Christian conference. Is it because Holy Spirit was so powerful on her? Is it because she was so empowered by the Holy Spirit, her name came up from all over, her name was written on the wall? No, just because she was rich. And she was giving a lot of money. Again, not in a bad way. I would have done the same thing to invite people like that because they make an impact in the society. So it's important that people, but all I'm saying is that act of giving, in that process, they are not really losing their money. They are actually using their money. That's why Anne Lamott said what's very important. Help is the sunny side of control. In some mysterious way, even when we are Christians, even when we give something. Let me give you a scenario. Let's make it Christian. I don't want to blame all these billionaires. But let's imagine somebody like us, ordinary people, right? Like say I'm making $50,000 a year, like an average person. And I'm making $50,000 a year. I see a homeless guy, standing at the junction begging for money, and I felt bad. I just feel bad. I just give him $50 I have in my pocket, or $20 or $50, or maybe $100 if I feel generous. I won't think about anything. I felt bad, and I just gave it to him, right? Okay? And I'm sure you must have done something similar, okay? Now, imagine that you make, instead of $50,000, maybe you make $500,000 a year, okay? Now the situation is a little different. When you make $500,000, you will be very, very interested in getting a tax receipt for your donation. Because this money you're making, the IRS is going to take a lot of it. So you are still generous, you are still charitable, but you want to make sure the accountability structure built around the process of giving, which is not a bad thing. So you will say, oh no, I feel bad for him. Maybe I'll give it to a homeless shelter. I'll give, $50,000 to a homeless shelter. Yeah, you go and be there. If I can make a call, I can arrange that. But I'm not going to give it to you like a random giving. And I want it to be accountable through a structure, right? That's a normal scenario. And now imagine you make $5 million a year. Now it's tricky. Now it's not just about getting the tax receipt. Now you know that I'm making $5 million. And I have to be accountable to God and to everything, to the society. And now I think I cannot just give to any homeless guy. I want to make sure that he's a Christian because I stand for my conviction and I want to bring him to the kingdom of God. So I only want to support Christian charity. I only want to support Christian charity. World Vision, I will support, but Red Cross, I'm not sure. Now again, it's not a bad thing. Maybe this is the way we should be doing if we ever get $5 million. But what I'm saying is the process of control slowly creeps in. We don't realize that. Now, if you make $50 million a year, now you're not going to give it to Red Cross. You're not going to give it to World Vision. Rather, you make your own foundation. That's what rich people do. When you have $50 million, then now you know, I have a position to influence. I want to support ICA. I don't care about the homeless people. Who cares? I want to support ICA. ICA has been praying for a ministry center for so long, and I want to help. So I'm going to create a foundation around ICA, and I want to contribute, and my money will flow through, and then money will be supported for building ICA ministry center. All this ministry works will be done. Yet, absolutely amazing thing, and God will be pleased. Yet, you have to realize that what I did was I exercised my control in which the way the money is sent. That's exactly what Anne Lamott said. Help, while you're doing help on one side, and the other side, you are also exercising your control. That's why it is only giving, it is not losing. You see, there's a difference between giving and losing. When you give 5 million or 50 million, you're only giving. That's fine, that's great, you're giving. But you're not losing anything, Matthew, because this ministry center or whatever was always in your agenda. It was always in your prayer. You gave to something you wanted to do. Yeah, it might be from God, and that's a completely different thing. The point I'm trying to make is, at some point, your charity became a control issue. Some point, we realize that when we have money, we can play God. And that's why we care about Bill Gates today. Who cares if he makes money and it doesn't really matter? But they are influencing the HIV issues in Africa, and they are doing a lot of help for third world countries, which is fantastic. So, but in that process, they are also being elevated. As human beings, we all nurture this little dream we had in the Garden of Eden. What was the dream we had in the Garden of Eden? The dream which the Satan planted into our head. You can be like God. You can be like God. You're smart. You're good looking. What is wrong with you? You can be like God. So this is why I have seen this, because I have earned my right to say this, because I've been in not-for-profit sector for almost 17 to 80 years. So when people go to ask for donations, that's why I'm a very terrible fundraiser. I'm very bad at fundraising. Because to raise funds, you had to strike their ego. You had to subdue to them. You had to kind of ask for kind of a mercy. When you talk to millionaires, you cannot talk like this. Because everybody, even for us, when you give some money, we feel like God sometimes, right? Don't you think so? When you give money and that money influences that person's life, don't you feel like there was a God factor that came into it, which is not a bad thing, by the way. You're doing a good thing. But what I'm saying is, don't assume that is losing. That is giving. But Jesus did not say that he who has gave his life will find it. He said, he who has lost his life will find it. So my challenge to you today is that what are we willing to lose? And that was the challenge Jesus issued to that rich young man. Very often in Christian circle, sometimes I feel like we need to have that Mother Teresa smiles. At the end of the sermon, I want all of you to crave for that smile. If only we could smile like that. That really fulfills our destiny in so many different ways. And we cannot do that because, Jesus said, in the Bible it says, God loves a cheerful giver. And sometimes it's like some of our Bible has a printing mistake, We are not cheerful givers, we are careful givers. We have to be very, very careful about, when I was in Toronto in our church, there's a girl, I'm going to call her Kathy because I don't want you to know her name. Not that you're going to ever meet her. But she is my ideal church member. She is the kind of people I want to be in church, right? So every week when she puts tithe, and the tithe will be $24.75. And the next week it will be $113.55. Or something like that, to the penny. Because she is putting her tithe in it, right? So she gives exact tithe. And so initially I thought, wow, what if everybody could be like that, right? With a calculator, really calculate what she made that week, and she puts that tithe. But then I later realized that, now, I don't know, Joanne would be smiling now. This particular girl I call Kathy, and she knows her name, I have never seen her smile in my entire life. She has such an awkward, she's a wonderful girl, by the way, but she always has this tight face. She always has this certain gloominess that is all around her. She has her own apartment, she has made a lot of money, and she's a wonderful giver, as I've mentioned, but there was something about her, there is no joy that comes to her. So I always think about Kathy when I think about this cautious generosity. Careful giving, because that's what we are taught. She is coming from a Christian family. She is taught to pay tithe, and that's what she is doing, which is what we all should be doing. But we have to remember that giving tithe is not just what Jesus meant. He said you have to lose, not just your tithe. What else? What else can we lose? So to the rich young ruler, we read, Jesus said, you have to lose your checking account, your mutual bank, whatever, 401k, whatever investment. I don't even know what this means. But, some of this. And what essentially Jesus is saying to that young man is that when you come and follow me, there is no tomorrow. You live one day at a time. Unless you are willing to lose your future, your security. I'm going to call it security. Particularly from the Indian community background, we are all very, very thoughtful about our security. What will happen to our future, right? Like we worry about that. In so many ways, the people of the East are wired that way. We want to save enough money for us and for our children, and so that we will have security. We want to look at the future. But Jesus told this rich young ruler, unless and until you lose your security, your future, you are not going to find it, young man. You are a wonderful guy. You go to church, you do everything right, but unless and until you lose your security, you're not going to find the life. You're not going to find the joy. You're not going to find the smile that I'm going to give it to you, right? And then, as you read on, when you go home, read Luke 18 and 19. So 18, 31 and 32, this is what the disciples say, behold, just before that, the disciples say, Lord, we have left even our homes and followed you. So basically the disciples are saying that, Lord, you told this rich young man about losing the security. We have already done that, right? We have checked that box, right? They have. They lost everything they had. They have no security at all. So we have checked the mark. Okay, so good. They were appreciating themselves. Then Jesus says this, what I told that rich young man was only the good part of the story. The bad part is still coming. You thought that was the bad news? No, that was the good news. Now I'm telling you, Luke chapter 18, 31 and 32, Jesus said, behold, we are going up to Jerusalem, and all things which are written through the prophets about the Son of Man will be accomplished. For he will be handed over to the Gentiles and will be mocked and mistreated and spit upon, and after they have scourged him, they will kill him, and third day he will rise again. So Jesus is saying, not just security. Not just security. You're also going to lose safety. Safety. Even though we have lost the security of the future, we are still holding on to the safety of the present. Jesus is saying that I'm not going to talk to you about the cost you have to pay in the future. I am going to tell you the danger you are right now, today. And unless and until you are willing to lose your safety, you are not going to find it. Now that's tricky, right? Jesus wants us to lose our security and safety. Now the third part, and chapter 19, there is an anticlimax. So he comes to this man named Zacchaeus, right? You know the story of Zacchaeus, right? And Zacchaeus was on the tree, and I preached this once too. And when Zacchaeus came, and this is what he said. What did he say? The first thing, so he saw Jesus. Jesus said, I'm going to come and have dinner with you at your house. Jesus kind of invited himself without any shame, right? And Zacchaeus, he comes, and this is the first thing he says. Behold, Lord, half of my possessions I will give to the poor. And if I have defrauded anyone of anything, I will give back 4 times as much. He is giving all this money issues, and he's going to, Lord, I'm going to give all my money to the poor, and I'm going to give the money back to the people I defrauded. And the Jesus is like, whatever. Like, who talked to you about bank account? I don't care about your money. I don't care about how much money you keep in your bank. And is that the same Jesus who was just having this conversation with the other guy? The same Jesus doesn't care. The same Jesus doesn't talk anything about money. Jesus does not have any conversation about money to Zacchaeus, but he says, today salvation has come to this house because you too is the son of Abraham. Because what happened in Zacchaeus' case is that he had a radical transformation that happened right in front of Jesus' eyes, and he lost his old self and he became a new self. He became a son of Abraham instead of the son of the devil or son of the Romans or son of the tax collection or whatever that was. But in front of Jesus, he had this radical transformation and he lost his self. And he rediscovered his identity as the Son of Man. Once you lose yourself, the other things will automatically follow. The process of losing self. When we say, Lord, I give myself to you, you have to remember that word. I give myself. If people make fun of you and tease you and all that, sometimes we get offended because somebody did something to us. And we get offended because why? Because we have that self. Because that self got hurt. That's why I get offended. Otherwise, who cares? Right? We still have that, we are still holding on to that self. That is the most difficult thing to give. Giving the self. Safety you can give if you are adventurous. Some people are very adventurous in Christian life. They will give everything and they will follow. And some people are very they trust the Lord to the extent that they will give everything, all the security they have in the future. But giving the self is even more difficult. Now that is the ultimate act of giving, is losing the self, our own identity. And I'm telling you, that is the most painful process the Lord has ever taken me through, and I am still in that path. It is no cakewalk. It is not that easy. It is very, very painful process. But one thing for sure, at the end of the road, the Mother Teresa smile is waiting for you. Mother Teresa had nothing. Diana had everything. But Mother Teresa lost herself, her safety, and her security. And because of that, she had this incredible, enviable joy and that smile. And that's what I want to leave you with. And I want to ask you, which smile do you want? There's this TV show, I'm going to stop. There's this TV show called Biggest Loser. Isn't that what they're called? Right? And I always, when I heard about the TV show for the first time, I thought, who in the world would call the winner of a competition the most insult, right? They insult the winner of the competition. The winner is the biggest loser, and they give them an award. You know what I'm talking about? Is the losing all the, the pound, the calorie, whatever, right? Like So for the biggest loser, they give an award. So Jesus is asking you to be the biggest loser in that sense. Being the biggest giver is not good enough, but can be the biggest loser. Because you know what? Jesus is the biggest, pardon my language, God, the biggest loser in the Bible. Philippians chapter 2, verse 7, it says, although he existed in the form of God, he did not regard equality with God a thing to be grasped. And he emptied himself, which means he lost himself, taking the form of a man, being in the likeness of a man and taking the form of a servant. And he humbled himself, becoming obedient to the point of death, even the death on the cross. Jesus lost everything. He did not just give you what he had. He had immeasurable glory, inexhaustible glory he could have given. He was not just giving from what he had. He was losing everything he had for what you could have today, the joy of salvation. So the true act of giving is an act of losing. Are we willing to lose ourselves, our security, and our safety for the sake of the kingdom?